House Budget Committee, I thought one thing. Why on earth did Bill Barr volunteer for this type of abuse? Leaving the comfort of his retirement just to have to answer to some of the nastiest people on the face of the planet. Nita Lowey of New York badgered Barr on his synopsis of the Mueller report.
All we have is your 4-page summary, which seems to cherry-pick from the report to draw the most favorable conclusion possible for the president and make definitive legal conclusions in less than 48 hours. I would argue it's more suspicious than impressive.
A knee-jerk liberal or just a jerk? Well, after watching this next clip, you decide.
Your conclusion is something we've seen before. In June 2018, you wrote a memo as a private citizen and a former attorney general to the Department of Justice, laying out the president's case against obstruction of justice. Your audition clearly went well.
Your audition clearly went well. Wouldn't you just love to read Bill Barr's subliminal thoughts about this entire charade scrolling at the bottom of the screen? Oh, I'd pay big money for that. The Attorney General didn't need this. He already was Attorney General, don't forget, almost 30 years ago when he was a lot younger and probably had a lot more patience. But like so many others in this administration, I'm thinking Bob Lighthizer at USTR, Wilbur Ross at Commerce, Alex Azar at HHS, Steve Mnuchin at Treasury, Betsy DeVos at Education. They all left their very comfortable lives and moved to Washington to help solve problems and make a difference. That's what civil service is supposed to be all about, isn't it? But this is what they deal with instead. Like Alex Azar at a recent Senate hearing about the detention of alien kids.
We are getting 300 to 350 unaccompanied alien children crossing the border and referred to HHS every single day right now. These are 10, 12, 13, 15-year-old kids. They're not coming with parents. They're coming across the border by themselves.
What is the capacity of the child prison system that you're seeking with this money?
You keep saying prison system. If you've got an alternative approach to how to care for these children, please tell us, because
well, let me give that to you.
It would be nice if you told us how to do that.
I loved it. That's what every cabinet secretary should do in these hearings, turn the tables on these people. Congress has the power to fix the immigration laws, don't they? And if child detention or separations are so offensive, hey, why don't you change the laws? Better yet, seal up the border and end this travesty altogether. Now, of course, Congress does have legitimate, important constitutional obligations to do proper oversight of the executive branch. I'm all for it. But what the Democrats have been doing since Trump took the oath of office isn't oversight, it's character assassination, either of the president himself, that he was secretly working with the Russians, or of anyone who works for him. Look at what the jackals did at Secretary Mnuchin's hearing today. Well, now, get this. We have a crisis on our southern border, and all impeached 45 Mad Maxine cares about is Trump's old tax returns.
Secretary Mnuchin, will you comply with the law by the deadline tomorrow?
As I said before, we will follow the law.
You're not afraid that you will be fired if, in fact, you release the returns?
Well, I'm not afraid of being fired at all. I've said we will follow the law. And
okay, and you are clear, and I'm very pleased you're not afraid of being fired.
Now, coming up empty there, Auntie Maxine went back to her favorite category. I'll take Russian oligarchs for $500.
I don't believe I've ever met a Russian oligarch.
So you never met or talked with or had any conversations with Mr. Deripaska or with Mr. Victor Vekselberg or anybody about sanctions. Is that correct?
That is correct. I've never met either of them.
No, not met, but had a conversation with, period.
I've never had any conversation with either one of them.
Okay, let us continue. The gentleman from North Carolina, Ranking Member Mr. McHenry, is recognized for 5 minutes.
By the way, that went on longer there. Okay, she's just a complete and utter embarrassment, along with Pelosi, the co-ruling queen of the resistance. How is any of this helping their constituents? The answer is it's not. Now, the Republicans, remember, they're also called the GOP, as in the Grand Old Party. I'm thinking Democrats should be called just UP, as in the unserious party, okay? Because for more than a year, the Trump team undertook the painstaking process of doing things like renegotiating NAFTA, the trade deal that had given unfair advantage to companies that moved their plants to Mexico. Canada and Mexico both signed off on it. So why hasn't Nancy Pelosi called it up for a vote? Because she's unserious. She's parroting bogus concerns of her buddies over there at the AFL-CIO about labor laws in Mexico.
It's a big issue how workers are treated in Mexico. And to lift up our own workers, you don't do that by suppressing workers in other countries. It's an exploitation on both sides.
I don't know what that was. She and Beto should get together. Exploitation? I haven't heard Nancy demand the same from China lately. Have you? They don't do anything with labor law problems. The truth is Pelosi wants to throw sand in Trump's gears every chance she gets. If Obama had negotiated the same deal, she'd have been all for it. But she'd rather deny Trump a victory than do the right thing by the American people. Same scenario, by the way, is at play with the ongoing invasion across our southern border. Congress could fix this in a weekend. Now, estimates are that this month alone, we could see 150,000 migrants overwhelming our border patrol. So instead of closing loopholes, ending this crisis, Democrats just use every opportunity to grandstand for the cameras.
The Department of Homeland Security is descending into chaos. A major, massive purge is no substitute for a change in policy.
Congress must exercise its duty to provide a check on the executive branch.
You pretty much have to be a yes person, otherwise you do not last long.
Nielsen will be known for implementing a cruel policy.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad that cabinet secretaries get berated about policies totally out of their area of responsibility even.
Well, I'm dismayed to hear that you're willing to drive our healthcare system off the cliff with no plan for replacing it.
Well, I think your premise that the Justice Department makes healthcare policy is simply wrong. We take legal positions in cases.
Okay. How Barr remained as cool as a cucumber is beyond me. Now, even as the hearing was ending, Chairman Jose Serrano, we warned you about him last year, couldn't give the condescension and self-righteousness a rest.
I grew up politically in the 60s. That's where I developed a lot of my feelings about things in our great country. It's very troublesome to see a Justice Department against the law of the land. We lean on you to come through for this country. And when we see you taking sides against the law of the land, or taking sides that we may not think is in the best interest of the American people, it troubles us. Nevertheless, we want to thank you for your testimony today.
Yeah, we all should be thanking Bill Barr and the entire Trump team. Now, despite a constant stream of defamatory attacks and scurrilous charges from the Democrats, the Trump administration has still managed to accomplish an enormous amount for our country with the economy, the courts, on trade, etc. Mindful persistence versus mindless resistance. Americans will have a clear choice in 2020, and that's the angle.